You are wasting your precious batteries in Endfield. Let's imagine the following situation. I got this fancy wooling factory that I copied from a YouTuber with some slight modifications. Running this entire factory in my zipline network is gonna consume me 2435 power. Now, how would I power that in wooling? Now, the way how I would normally power that would be by, well, there's a base power from 200 from the PAC. And then I would have to use batteries of low capacity wooling batteries to power that, probably. You could mule batteries over from the valley region. Maybe I'm gonna do that earlier or later, but let's for now assume I'm using the LC wooling batteries. I would have to use twice of these with 1600 energy provided per time unit. That's a total energy production of 3400. But that means I'm wasting 1000 power whenever that battery is running. We see that here when I look at like my time. There used to be a time where I just did this and I wasted 1000 power. Can we use this 1000 power on anything? Well, currently we are bottlenecked by the amount of selenite that we can produce and the amount of ores we can have. There isn't really a lot we can do with this 1000 power that would really make sense. So is that power truly wasted? Well, the batteries that we need to spend this power are. Think of it that way. If I could repeatedly turn on and off my power usage, my power output, to average out on the power that I'm actually using, I could be saving batteries, which saves me precious selenite that I could, for example, invest into piling up on selenite components. Now, that kind of defeats the purpose of automation when I have to be online at all times to turn on and off the power output production from the LC wooling batteries. So what if we can automate the process of turning on and off the power delivery? Today I want to talk about pulse width modulation. And this is exactly what I basically just described. We have either the option between power on or power off. So let's control the average power flow by just turning on the intervals as we need it. So how do we accomplish this? Well, we have to implement the concept of time, and there happens to be a very convenient way for us to create time. Let's imagine the following situation. I'm using a depot unloader to unload some type of junk onto this conveyor belt. So we know that something is getting unloaded every 2 seconds. That's the smallest atomic operation that there is in Endfield. Now, I know that if I do something to this conveyor belt, items will arrive every 2 seconds. When I know where to split this, what do I know about these two conveyor belts? Well, round robin style, the splitter basically alternates between all conveyor belts that are connected as an output. What that basically means is it goes left, then it goes right, then it goes left, it goes right. There's gonna be an item, every second item is gonna reach this conveyor belt. So what do I know is when I can guarantee that this conveyor belt has an item arriving at every 2 seconds, which a depot unloader is a very consistent way of doing that, I can guarantee that there's gonna be an item on these conveyor belts every 4 seconds. And if we keep playing this game, I can make it 8, 16, 32, 64, 128 seconds for me to know for items to arrive on these conveyor belts accordingly. And before we realize it, we have found a way to implement time, because now I can basically cherry pick. Let's say I want an item to arrive every 20 seconds. Basically, I know an item is gonna arrive on this conveyor belt every 4 seconds, every 16 seconds on this conveyor belt. So if I were to merge these two conveyor belts and put them into a thermal bank, one battery is gonna be used up every 20 seconds. And the other conveyor belts I will just, I don't know, put into a depot loader or feed back into the loop. This is exactly the idea that the first PWM design had that people has been spreading. This design originally comes from a Chinese video And it follows this exact idea of feeding batteries by... It calculates the total power that the Wuling battery provides and then converts it to binary to match your power needs. I will go into the diagram here. So the idea is like basically what the developer did. A Wuling battery provides 1600 power over 40 seconds. The smallest time unit we are working with here is 2 seconds. So we calculate 1600 times 40 divided by 2. And that gives us the total power of 32,000, which is exactly what the creator of this blueprint came out on. From there, he's essentially splitting the total power by applying splitters. So when I split the battery to the left and to the right, my total power produced in the average is going to be 16,000. And we can keep doing that. If we split here again, we're going to split into 8,000, and then we split into 4,000. And 4,000 is what he eventually feeds into the red portion. There's some feedback going on, so that instead of 4,000, he feeds bin 4,096. Because what essentially happens here is he keeps splitting into 2,000, 1,500, and 250. The 250 goes in here, gets split again, twice. 125, and then 62.5. And the 62.5 get also fed in. And the same happens here with, like, it sends in 125, splits it twice. We send in roughly 32 something, and as such we get roughly 4,095 total power on this conveyor belt. So as close as possible to 4,096 without this design getting much bigger. It's a very genius design. And eventually what it allows us to do is we can now binary decode our power use and apply belt bridges and converters based on what we need. For example, I know 200 power is already being produced by my PAC, so I need to produce 2,235 power. That creates this binary sequence. I'm gonna leave it on the screen for a bit. So, now we have seen this binary sequence. How do I implement this? Well, I take this array of 12 converters and belts and replace it with what I do need. Which means I take belt bridges and place them everywhere there has been a 1. There has been a 1 here. There's been a 1 there. There's been 3 ones here. And there's been 2 ones here. And the rest, I'm now putting converters. There. Converter. So what this ends up doing is, we do exactly the same thing I demonstrated here below, but automatically decode it into the binary so that if we run this machine over an infinite amount of time, we will produce exactly 2,235 watts with it. 2,235? Yeah, 2,235 watts with it. And technically this works. There's just certain issues with this design. If you're just one of those people that want a blueprint and don't care about the explanation, the blueprint is in the video description. You probably already copied and clicked away from the video anyways, and I wish you good luck that this design works. There's a good chance that this design does not work for you. So what issues does this design have? I not wanna like try to talk down this design. This design is genius, and this design is the foundation for everything that follows after. Everything I'm gonna explain towards the end of the video would have not been possible without this design. Where are the problems? Well, this design supports anywhere between 800 to 4,095 watts, according to the creator. That's, if we were to try to do with 8,192, which is probably something we have to consider in the end game of Wuling, fixing that could become a little bit complicated. Now, fixing the red portion is not a big issue. We can just keep adding those rows of 3 components to double the binary decoder. So if I were to take these 3 symbols, stick them here and make the conveyor belt go a little bit further outside, that's 8,192. The issue is mostly the bottom part, whereas I have to feed in 8,000 instead, then I have to use these components to create a feedback of 192. This is what we're gonna requiring some changes to the design, but it's technically not impossible. Where things get interesting is if we try to do this with, let's say, a different battery. Let's imagine we want to use this design in Valley 4. This design is not going to work because the total power delivered by an AC Valley battery is not 32,000. An AC Valley battery provides 1100 power over 40 seconds. So it's gonna deliver 44,000 divided by 2, 22,000 power. So in order for this design to work, the entire blue portion needs to be redone, so that instead of delivering 22,000 on this conveyor belt, we are delivering 4,096 or roughly 8,192 again, depending on if you upscale this design or not. So there's a lot of maintenance in the blue portion required if you want to make this blueprint work with different batteries and future updates. So this blueprint is convenient right now, but it's not going to be future-proof. A different issue is, since we are basically oscillating, that's what we're doing, and we oscillate our power delivery, we do this with our entire power delivery. There's gonna be periods where we produce a lot of power, and there's gonna be periods where we not produce a lot of power for a long period of time. This design guarantees that it averages out over an infinite amount of time, but if our battery runs out, that's not an infinite amount of time. So there is certain number combinations that inserted in here will crash your factory. For example, let's say you were to try to exactly produce 1899 watts for whatever reason. Doing a time span of roughly 3000 seconds, or like there's a cycle of like 2700 seconds roughly, your factory is gonna crash twice. And crashing means we have downtime, we're producing less shit. Eventually machines do not even behave well on being disabled. There could be synchronization issues. You do not want your factory to run out of power. And the reason why that happens is because we are accelerating our entire power delivery. This is also what the creator of the D.I.G.E application noticed. He created this blog post where apparently he was assisted using AI writing it. It basically goes over the same thing I'm explaining in this video. I mostly just created this video because there isn't any like international sources yet, and also because the AI struggles to explain some of the concepts, like for example how this feedback works. However, he came to the conclusion, yeah, so this design, when you were to produce certain power, is gonna make issues, and I came to the conclusion that, well, there's certain scalability issues with the blue portion. There's got to be a better solution. And the better solution is, if that doesn't work for you, is instead of oscillating the entire power production, let's just oscillate a certain part. Let's go back to our situation. I need 2435, so I need to have one battery running at always anyways. So I could be producing 1800 minimum, and this buys me a lot more time for my battery to deplenish. So I'm gonna run one battery permanent, and the other one is just oscillating, instead of having both batteries turn on and off. And this is generally a good idea because it makes the entire system more stable. It just has the downside of, like, now building this as a human gets really complicated now, because I have to consider my total power output, I have to subtract the pack, I have to subtract my permanent portion, then I have to automate the remaining power delivery. And if we look at this, 2235 minus 1600, that's 635. I can't use the 12-bit design for that because it can only ever deliver at least 800 watts. So what we need, especially since this portion needs to be adjusted always anyways, is that we need custom tailored factories for every person. But we can't make infinite blueprints for that, so instead let's make a website that calculates what you have to build for you. The idea is relatively simple. You type in how much power you need. You should type in including the pack, because the website considers that. I'm currently needing 2435. So I should probably type that 2435. I don't want my battery to go below 5%. You can of course adjust that. I don't want to waste more than 30 watts of energy, which just increases the amount of options you have. And then I'm gonna use ruling battery low. And now this website, based on like different strategies and simulations, is gonna try to figure out how we can save the most energy by building our custom tailored PWM design. Let's for example take this design here. In this design I'm producing 2442 watts, which is 7 watts more than I need, but hey, I'm still saving roughly 1300 batteries a day, compared to just having 2 batteries run the entire day. So how is that done? Well, 1 battery has to run permanent, and 2 batteries have to oscillate on the base of these instructions. What that basically means is we have an input, which is a depot, and then we have 2 3-way splitters and 3 2-way splitters that are connecting to portable stashes, and that goes into a generator then. And if you kind of look at what I did here, that's exactly that design. So I have my portable stashes here, and the splitters feed into that. And what that basically causes to do, when we look at the website again, or you go back in the video, every 1 out of 72 batteries reaches the thermal bank. And in this design here at the right, every 1 out of 162 batteries reaches the thermal bank. And totally what that causes to do is, I'm just producing enough power to keep my factory running in what's a 22-minute period, where my power delivery cycles, but is much more stable than with the 12-bit PWM design. So when I look, for example, at 30 minutes, I'm gonna go up, down, but my factory never shuts down. And it even works over an extended period. Because what you eventually see is, we have a 22-minute cycle that once we reached, there's no more chaos and it keeps repeating. Like, see how this spikes look similar and how this lines look similar? That's because they are similar. We are inside the 21-minute cycle again. The good thing on this design is it also works with the Valley AC battery. So let's go to my Valley factory for a moment. I think I need 5,333 power. 30 power. Don't ask me, I have a lot of zip lines placed down. If I do Valley battery high now, this design still works. Unlike the 12-bit PWM, I need 4 Valley high battery, and then I need to use 2 Valley battery high that are oscillating. And let's go to my Valley 4 factory really quick to show that this also works. So this is my Valley 4 core pack. The power delivery is mostly handled on my sub pack, but I'm mostly just moving over to quickly show. Hold on then there, I can also do this here, when I'm turning on my power on and off, and it works. It shows right now here on average that I would be producing a little bit less than I'm using, but believe me when I say my factory's running totally fine and is not shutting down. It's just averaging out, and the cycle that it hit here is a bit inconvenient. But like generally my factory is consistent. There's no outages in the production. So that's basically what this entire D.I.G.E thing is about. I'm still gonna provide some hints so that you're not gonna mess up your factory, because there's some things about D.I.G.E that we need to talk about, and I think it's best shown when I go back to my ruling factory again. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, what the hell do we need the portable stashes for? And the answer to that is basically already on the website, but I've still found it a bit conflicting. The idea is the following: as we are feeding in more batteries, we have to ensure that those splitters are free. If the splitters are like polluted, or like the path they can take is polluted, they're no longer gonna go perfect round robin style, so the batteries that are being produced becomes inconsistent. So we are basically placing the stashes here just to puffer the batteries that go inside, so that the splitters can always go left, front, right, or in this case I guess left, front, and feed back into the system. As for feeding back into the system, you have basically 2 options. You could either have those lines that go back from the portal stashes go into a depot loader, back into the depot, or you can feed them back. If you feed them back into the circle, ensure that this converter that feeds them back into the circle is right in front of the depot unloader or the output. The reason for that is if you install the converter right in front of the depot unloader, the depot unloader is actually smart enough, or the converter is smart enough, to prioritize the batteries coming in from the left and right side before it takes out batteries from the bottom. If you were to place this just one block higher, so that there's a conveyor belt between the depot unloader and the converter, this priority system no longer exists. It's gonna round robin style take one battery from this conveyor belt, then one from this conveyor belt, and one from this conveyor belt, which will eventually cause there to be more batteries in circulation than it can take, and this will backlog, and eventually your entire system will pollute and crash. So don't do that. So for demonstrational purposes, let me do I still have like a depot bus or something laying around here? Depot bus section? Yeah, let's do it like this for now. And let's make a copy of that to get an idea of what I'm talking about. This design is fine. But if I were to do this, this design is not fine. You will end up polluting the entire system with that. So if you do converge back into the system, do it right in front of the round robin. So you see, because like there has been an item here, but it still took the item out of there. And as I keep running it, this conveyor belts will fill up, this protocol stashes will fill up, and the entire system will pollute and crash. So don't do that. I made the mistake myself when testing out the D.I.G.E design. You not wanna do that. Either converge directly in front of the depot, or use a depot unloader or protocol stash that is powered to send the items back. It should be worth mentioning, since we use these only as storage, you want to ensure that these protocol stashes are unpowered. If you cannot avoid them being powered, put them in storage mode. You do not want to have the items go back into the depot. It's kind of just wasted, as in like it has to take more out of the depot unloader, but like, yeah, we can do better than that. Preferably you want to have them unloaded so that they not waste any electricity. But that's basically it. This is how you save your batteries, and that way you can also save Serenite. What I will probably end up doing is, as I'm filling up my Serenite batteries, I will probably move the AC Valley batteries that I'm saving over to my Endfield Factory, so that I'm saving even more batteries, and then that way I can kick up my Serenite component production higher anytime soon, the moment we get a content update and we can make more 5-star gear. So I hope that this video wasn't too long. I figured it's probably too long, but I wanted to ensure that not only I give you guys the solution, but also how it works, because there's like, it's not plug and play, it's not brain dead. You have to have an idea of what you're doing, and there's many things you can do wrong, and I hope that this video helping with your with saving batteries in your factories by stabilizing and averaging out your power production over an infinite amount of time.